Okay.
Okay, well, welcome to the first official tennis parent community Zoom. As I say, we're recording the session, so if anybody doesn't want to be recorded, then please feel free to watch this on playback and leave the meeting. I'd like to welcome several people who are on the Zoom tonight. First of all, my friend Simon Spalter. Simon set up the parent group with me and set up also the tennis volunteer community Facebook group. And if anybody's on the Zoom tonight who isn't a member of the parent group, the tennis parent community Facebook group, then please do join us. We discuss all things tennis, and we enjoy doing so, and we help and support each other as our children go through their journey. It'd be nice to see your cameras on if you're up for that. You're not obliged to, but I know Sunday night there's probably all sorts of things going on in households that you'd rather keep off camera, but if you can and you want to join in, that's fine. We also ask you initially to stay on mute, just so that we've got the quality of sound for the recording. But if you'd like to say anything, please do raise a hand during the meeting or put something in the chat. We're going to start we've put together a consolidated version of the questions that we've picked up from the Tennis Parent Community Facebook group, and also from those that you sent over when you registered for the event. So we've gone through all of those, and a lot of them had similar topics in them. So what we've done is consolidated them a bit, and I'm going to put those to the guys who are joining us from the LTA, and then towards halfway through the event, we'll ask you to start asking your own questions if anything hasn't been covered already, and feel free then to come in with any extra extensions to those questions that might pop into your minds, or if we have missed anything. So we really appreciate the LTA joining us tonight, the representatives from the LTA. It's obviously a Sunday, so it's kind of them to give up their time. And I really hope that everybody will see this as a very collaborative session. We're not looking to sort of throw stones at each other. We're working together as a community in tennis and hoping to sort of improve everybody's experience, not just for now, but for the future too. And I think we're all on the same side in that respect. Now, the other thing I wanted to just mention is there's an awful lot of information on the LTA website about World Tennis Number. So we are going to sort of cover off the basics quite quickly, because if you go onto the FAQ section of the website, you'll find lots of information to back all of that up. And tonight we're going to focus a little bit more on scenario-based questions once we've covered off the basics. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Chris Mann and Sam Kemp. Chris, would you like to start by introducing yourself perhaps and just telling us a little bit what your role is within the competition team as the support manager?
Okay, thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. As Kay said, my name's Chris Mann. I'm the competition support manager here at the LTA. So my role is broken down into three key areas. I'm responsible for our competition technology, our competition measures, including World Tennis Number, and then the third area is kind of the servicing of competition. Team of three of us run competition support, and we're obviously supported by a wider team of customer support specialists in our customer support team. With regards to the World Tennis Number specifically, I was the project manager for the launch of the World Tennis Number, and I'm now the technical lead as we move into a new phase of the project, and have been working with Sam, who will introduce himself very shortly, throughout the whole project. Sam did a fantastic job of the education side, while leaving me to really focus on the implementation of the World Tennis Number from a technical an algorithmic perspective. In addition to that, I sit on the ITF steering committee for the World Tennis Number. So we meet 6 times a year with our counterparts from the USTA and the FFT, together with the ITF, in delivering that World Tennis Number. So that's a short intro about me.
You mentioned quite a few acronyms then. Would you like to run us back through that? And just for anyone who doesn't know those acronyms, perhaps just explain ITF.
Yeah, which one in particular
USTA.
USTA, okay, sorry, the USTA and the
mentioned another one.
FFT. So the USTA is the United States Tennis Association, so our counterparts in America, and then the FFT is the French Federation, so our counterparts in France. So 3 Grand Slam nations all working together to deliver the World Tennis Number.
Fabulous, thank you for that. And over to you, Sam. Tell us a bit about what your involvement is, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, not at all. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see so many people on the call. Hopefully, as Chris mentioned, as I sort of led on a lot of the training and resource development for the World Tennis Number, I may have seen some of you on our previous parent webinars that we hosted probably around sort of 18 months ago now. That's when my work with the World Tennis Number began, so sort of leading that training, and I wrote quite a lot of the resources that I'm sure will point you in the direction of throughout this session. In addition to the development arm of the ITF World Tennis Number at the LTA, I also manage LTA Youth Team Challenge, Play Your Way to Wimbledon, as well as all LTA paddle competitions. So I sit within the recreational competition team at the LTA, and as you can tell from the 4 different products, I have quite a variety within my role.
It's interesting that you call them recreational, Sam. Is that sort of is that how parents perhaps feel about them? We don't always feel like it's just for fun, but is that the definition the LTA use?
Well, particularly for my role, yes. So because I've got the likes of LTA Youth Team Challenge and Play Your Way to Wimbledon, and with paddle still being sort of in its infancy, that's very much sort of recreationally focused. And I'm sure we'll kind of get into a bit more detail throughout the session around how the World Tennis Number sits with that recreational player group. But we definitely see it as a tool to support more players to find appropriate competition at all levels of the game. So if that can support new players into tennis, or if that can support players that are, you know, club level players that are maybe struggling to find a partner to play 1 time a week or a little bit more throughout the year, then that's definitely something that we're trying to support them to do.
Fabulous. Okay, well, let's start with some questions then, because the guys who've come on here tonight are all keen to have some more information. Perhaps some of them missed the initial training, perhaps they've joined into the world of tennis since that happened, or perhaps they're quite sophisticated in their knowledge of World Tennis Number. So we're going to rattle through some basics first of all. Could you just explain what the main goal of the rating system is? What challenges did the old system that you had in place present? And what was it that made ITF World Tennis Number the preferred choice?
It's a really good question, Kay, thanks. And well, we'll start with what is a rating. Well, a rating is a measure of a playing standard. And as Tam has just touched upon, it's a means for players to find players of a similar level, regardless of age or gender, to have a good hit with, or to have a good match against. So 2 players of a similar World Tennis Number should be able to have what we would consider a level-based match, and the scoreline should be fairly close by nature. If we go back to the beginnings of the project, we started this project back in 2016, and with lots of analysis. We have had a rating system here in Britain for the last 40 years. It launched in 1983, the very first rating system. And we have seen 3 iterations of that rating system before the World Tennis Number. After, you know, with any competition measure, of course, players, parents want to be the best they possibly can be, and I think that's the first thing to mention. But that can also be open to manipulation, and we found that the old rating system was becoming more and more inaccurate, and really wasn't achieving what we wanted it to achieve in a measure which measured your playing standard to support you in finding players of a similar level to compete against. And one of the 2 of the big issues on that were there were only 20 bands on the World Tennis Number. So there were 20 different ratings you could be. And also it was a very simplistic calculation, 6 qualifying wins and a 60% win-loss ratio. You could protect it, you could chase the rating, and ultimately it was becoming more and more inaccurate.
I think the other thing that I found when my children were younger was that sometimes it even stopped you from competing, because you felt like once you'd achieved the stage that you needed to go up a rating, you'd actually hold fire until the rating changed before you dare risk losing those wins.
Exactly, which isn't healthy from anyone's perspective. And so we wanted something that was more accurate, but it was also it updated more frequently, and it took into account all matches regardless of when they played. There was no, and we wanted to reduce the pressure. So we looked at 4 different rating systems. We did a huge amount of market research in this area. 2 competitor rating systems. I'm sure you can guess what one of those was, and another one that was used out in the States and with some of the bigger commercial fitness industry clubs. And then we looked at doing it ourselves, and also the World Tennis Number. And you know, you don't take a decision like this lightly. You do a huge amount of research. You make sure you've got the right product, but the collaboration between the ITF, who ultimately own the World Tennis Number, and 3 Grand Slam nations in Great Britain, USA, and France, okay, is so powerful. And what we're trying to do with it in creating this global tennis language is really important. So the World Tennis Number's now been live. Sorry, Kay.
No,
One last sentence. The World Tennis Number's been live for what is it now? Nearly 18 months, and it's been a hell of a journey. And it's certainly the very beginning of the project, and it's going to start moving into a new phase very shortly. So watch this space, and we'll touch on that new phase very shortly, I'm sure.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a lovely idea that we're going to have more changes to come, because, to be honest, representing the parents for a moment, people are listening to this saying, well, that sounds great, but I don't think the World Tennis Number currently is doing my child or their peers justice in terms of how good or how not good they are at tennis. So part of that is because they feel that there's missing data and that there's been technical issues with the launch of the system. So that's actually impacting parents quite significantly, because although it's not being used for everything in junior tennis, there are things that it is being used for. So what's your feelings about that, Chris? How can you sort of explain the missing data and the technical hiccups that have happened?
Yeah, absolutely. And as both in Sam and my introductions, you kind of see that this area really does fall under my remit. And Sam gets the glamorous side of growing the World Tennis Number, whereas I'm in the background just getting the data right and getting the systems working the best they possibly can be. And look, well, first of all, let's just say on behalf of the LTA, we apologize for any issues that have happened, or there's missing data on anyone's profiles. It's been a rocky 2 years for the whole of the LTA, and you'll have seen this with a number of our products where there have been technical glitches and things which we have not got 100% right. Many of you will probably be aware that we are going through a colossal digital transformation project, replacing the fundamental database that's in the background that's running all of our systems, and also finding the best in class tools to layer over the top of that to service the needs of our players, or each of our different customer groups, really. So players being one of them, with the competition management system now there, our competition portal, the World Tennis Number, and various others such as Club Spark, the balloting systems, all of those systems overlaying on top of our database. And look, we've had some issues. There's no denying that. we are working incredibly hard to resolve all of those issues. I hope many of you will have seen some of them that we've been making on the World Tennis Number very recently. We sent a huge amount of data to the ITF about 2 to 3 weeks ago to repair one of the jobs that was not quite working as it should have done. And we are now going through each of the various elements of the system to ensure that everything is working 100% correctly.
Well, that's
I
great to
also
know that
appreciate-
you haven't just sort of launched it and then all gone off for a nice recovery holiday, but you're actually continuing to constantly monitor it. If a parent therefore sees something that they can see is wrong, you know, as parents, we don't know whether that's us or whether we've done something wrong at a tournament, whether our child should report their score or something differently, whether it's the tournament organisers, whether it's the way they've set up the tournament, whether it's the World Tennis Number itself, and we're not expected to intervene and it's just going to repair itself without us. What have you got to say about those? What should a parent do if they
100%.
feel that they've got the wrong rating for their child?
So in terms of the data is the biggest challenge within this project. We've been going through identifying duplicate contacts in the system and merging those, and I would say 99% of contacts have now been merged. We're actually looking at ensuring every match is being sent across the World Tennis Number and the tennis ID is recognized now. But if you think there are any issues with matches not going across and they're identified in MyGame, if they haven't been across, or if you're missing matches on the competition or that are in the competitions portal that are not showing on your MyGame dashboard, please get in touch with us. Our customer support team know exactly what to do, and they are working with my team on a daily basis to ensure that these issues are resolved. So how to get in touch with the customer support team? You go to the LTA website and you select our help center or our support center, as it's now called. There's a contact us form in there. Submit a contact us form, and we will get in touch with you within our SLA of what I believe is 48 hours. So get in touch. We'll get it resolved as quickly as we possibly can, and we'll keep you updated if we can't do it straight away.
That's great. Thank you. So that's a method for us all to use. That's the best way and the quickest way, presumably. So we don't need to be calling the umpires perhaps and saying, you know, why isn't my child's World Tennis Number fed through? And on just while I've got that, the other thing I'd like to know is just to refresh people's memory if they're not sure where MyGame dashboard is. How do you get to that? Yeah,
that's a good question. If you log on to the LTA website, you sign in, and you'll come to your Advantage homepage. On the left-hand side of that Advantage homepage are a number of options, and I think it's second or third one down, which is MyGame. Click on that button.
And that's obviously your child's profile, that you're the connected account, or a child's connected to their parents' account, aren't they? So
yeah, exactly.
Okay, fabulous. And there was another question there, wasn't there? I can't remember what it was now because you answered that second one so beautifully. I'm sure it'll come back to us. So just moving on then, and please do, anybody who wants to make comments, put them in the chat. And as I say, when we've covered some of these basics, we will open the floor up for you to ask more questions yourselves. So another popular question was, and we got it from several people who wrote in, at what age and exactly how does my child get a World Tennis Number? What do I have to do to activate it, and where can I go and see it? Well, we just talked about the MyGame dashboard, but is that one for you perhaps, Sam?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one, give Chris's voice a little bit of a rest. Essentially, all junior players, will receive their first World Tennis Number on the 1st of January, the year they go into 10 and under, so the year they begin green ball. And all players will begin with a World Tennis Number of 40.9 and are encouraged to go out there, start competing, and they'll start to very quickly see the impact of their results on their World Tennis Number. And that is the case for all junior players from 10 and under all the way through to 18 and under. They simply have to sign up to LTA Advantage under Play, Play Plus, or Compete, and they'll get an ITF World Tennis Number as a benefit of that membership, all beginning at 40.9. little nod to my development side of the role. Let's not just think that the World Tennis Number is only for our children though. So all of the adults on the call as well, if you want to go and get your own ITF World Tennis Number, you simply have to do exactly the same process. So sign up to LTA Advantage, you'll get your World Tennis Number as a benefit of that membership. But the difference between a junior player and an adult player is the questionnaire. So any adult player that signs up to the World Tennis Number is able to activate their number by completing the questionnaire. This is a series of very simple questions that take in your previous playing experience and aims to provide you with a more accurate starting World Tennis Number, so you can find the most appropriate first initial match for yourself. And again, exactly the same as the juniors, as soon as you then start competing, it will be your match results that are counting towards your number and making it move accordingly.
And when does it move, Sam? So if I play a match, say on a weekend, when would I expect to see that hit my World Tennis Number, and where would I go to look to see if it had?
So you should see your World Tennis Number change each Wednesday morning, and you're able to track all of the match results that are counted towards your World Tennis Number through your MyGame dashboard. So you'll be able to see all of your recent results underneath your World Tennis Number widget that are all counting towards your number.
And somebody's popped in the chat here, Belinda. I don't know whether you want to come off mute, Belinda, and ask that question, or whether you'd like me to.
Hi, yeah, you've actually answered a bit of it, but my son plays pretty much every week, had no change for a month, and then it suddenly changed twice in the same week. So that was a little unusual. We got a change on a Wednesday and then a change on a Friday.
What's going on there, Chris?
Yeah, it's a good question. It should only change on a Wednesday. However,
Okay.
over the last couple of months, we've been onboarding a huge number of nations into the
I heard
World
that.
Tennis
Okay,
Number.
that's
probably
fine.
what's
I'm not here
happened,
to moan.
or a merge has happened, or something like that.
Okay.
What we
All right. So Wednesday, is that the Wednesday following that weekend prior's tournaments? Is it that quick, or is it like a lag of a week or two?
No, it should be the following Wednesday. So if you compete on the Saturday and Sunday, it should be the following Wednesday.
So it's that fresh, the data.
Yeah,
okay.
I think one thing to add into here, which hopefully might sort of settle some questions as well, is as part of Chris's role on the ITF steering committee for the World Tennis Number, we're really trying to work collaboratively with them so that any updates that do happen are taken into account for that Wednesday. So trying to avoid as much as possible where new nations are onboarded, and there is a significant amount of data that is added to the system, to almost hold that until the pre-planned Wednesday update, so we avoid the situations, as you've seen, where we're letting you know that your number should only update on a Wednesday, and there have been occurrences where it's happened on days that aren't Wednesday, ultimately.
Okay, thanks for that. And another question that's come in the chat from Ainsley is actually the next question I was going to ask. So that's quite useful to for Ainsley, if you want to come in on this one. But just really asking what formats of matches for junior matches count for World Tennis Number? Well, because as Ainsley says, I think that it doesn't seem like the ones that are played in league matches, the junior league results aren't being submitted. They're not appearing.
Yeah, so what does count, first of all? So all 10 and under competition upwards counts towards the World Tennis Number. So 10 and under, 11 and under, all the way up to 90 and over, which is our latest category that the ITF have introduced into the senior circuit. So everything counts. Individual competition, team competition, any scoring format that's used, the algorithm takes that into account as well. And the only thing I would say is it has to use our systems. Okay, so if it goes through the competition management system, our competitions portal, or certain league providers will be coming on board very shortly. Local tennis leagues, all that data all comes into our system. Now, there are some county and district leagues which we have had issues with. We believe they're all now fixed, but if there is a county and district league that Ainsley, you're not sure is counting, drop it in the chat and I can take it on my list of bits to come back with, and we'll see what we can do in getting that sorted for you.
Ainsley, would you like to come off mute and ask a question if you've got anything else to say on that?
Very good. Hi, yes. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, the Hertfordshire League results, none of them are going forward to the MyGame areas, and I've heard similar things from other parents. So none of those are appearing. Obviously, we don't know whether we should be contacting you separately and individually to tell you that, or whether you're just aware of it.
Is that the junior league? Or
yes, yeah.
Okay.
It's the Hertfordshire sort of county tier version of the National League.
That's the winter version, I take it, Ainsley, at the moment.
Winter and last summer as well.
Okay, let me have a look. The summer definitely should be there now. We did a huge amount of work at back end of last year to get all the leagues online and submitting, but I need to probably have a look at the winter version just to check that one.
Okay, I'll look back at the. Yeah, it's just I'm a junior team captain, you see, so it's a bit of a double whammy, because if the league results aren't being submitted to the WTN updates, then obviously it doesn't reflect league players and what results they're getting. And then, but on the other side of that, we have to apply playing order in the teams according to their WTN number. So there's a definite disconnect there.
Okay, leave it with me. We'll come back with probably an update at the end, Kay, of this, once I've had a couple of days to have a look at a few of these kind of questions we can't answer on the call today.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
And if Ainsley had that thought after hanging up from this Zoom, Chris, would that be something she'd go through the competition, the customer support team?
Yes, please.
Okay, and then that would make its way to you.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I think Claire Nutt is on the call, and she's popped something in the chat there about the fact that, Sam, you mentioned that the 10 and under children started on 4.9, but in Claire's experience, some of them are coming in their 20s is the first number that was seen. Can you explain that? Claire, I don't know whether you want to add anything to that.
No, sorry, that was just my only question, was just like when they came on, they all seemed to come mid-20s and actually better than the kids who are on 11, 11 and 12, which if they're going to play up in County Cup, then wrecks the order there. And that's one of the biggest concerns that we've got.
Yeah, so there were some players that did start at something in their 20s, Claire, and this was as a result of contacts which had been merged through the ClubSpark account migration process. We have hopefully now rectified all of those, and the numbers are accurate and date of births are correct. But it's something to look at for next year's onboarding of all the 10 and under contacts for next year, to make sure that doesn't happen and we've cleared any account migrations before that date. I don't think there are any others, unless you're going to tell me otherwise.
I still think they're quite low, the numbers, compared to the older kids. I still think the 10 and unders are sitting at a better numbers, and mine has a better number, so it's not that I'm complaining about that. I'm just saying it will mess things later in the year and many weeks.
So we are also looking into a piece on the algorithm at the moment around 10 and unders and 12 and unders. So it could be partly to do with this as well. We're looking at three tweaks to the algorithm at this present moment based on how the algorithm's working, and one of them is 10 and under onboarding versus 12 and under onboarding. So it may be something to do with that as well, but I'd probably have to have a look in a little bit more detail into that one. Before
that's fine. And just as incidentally, I don't think East of Scotland League matches are counting either. Okay. So thanks.
It's going to be a busy week.
Definitely.
Thanks, Claire. And Chris, I think we're going to have to get you security to follow you around if you're going to admit to actually knowing the algorithm to World Tennis Number. Be very careful what you say. So a lot of the questions in the chat are actually popular questions that are on our list to answer tonight as well. So let's keep going. So we talked a bit about what format of matches count. And I noticed somebody's asked, Belinda, I think's asked about if school leagues count as well. And Tennis Europe, Chris would like to know if Tennis Europe matches count.
So school leagues, it depends which school league we're talking about and how many of the results or what results are recorded. So most
the
of
official one, Chris, it's all on the actual system. So
is this the national championships? Or
yeah,
year 8 and 10, because the year 8 and 10 doesn't, or year 7 and 8, 9 and 10 doesn't record. We don't record the players' names or their LTA numbers for that one.
Do you not? Oh, we've just done it.
I don't think so. If name and LTA number are there, then yes, we do. But
okay, I think you're right. I don't think the name. So, that's a nightmare. So we don't get anything for that.
Not at the moment, but work in progress. I know our team competition team are looking into this at the moment, and whether we can get the schools on board with it. Ultimately, it's about making it life as easy as possible for the schools.
But the leagues we've got coming up in March,
yes,
they're all scheduled. They're on there, and you can click on and it says the players' names.
Right, so that will be included.
But I don't know if the players' names. I'm trying to think what happened last year. I think it's a bit like County Cup. I think it shows who played.
Some do, some don't, and it sounds like you're talking about national championships there. So that definitely does count. In terms of Tennis Europe have just come online with World Tennis Number, so they'll be those match results are now included in the algorithm.
Will they be backdated to previous matches, Chris?
Yeah, so everything's backdated to 2016, and then they recalculate the numbers.
Wow, that's going to make some changes for those people who've been doing international travel. Definitely. That's going to make a big difference.
They're already in the system. They're just not public on the Tennis Europe player profiles at the moment, but they're in the system already.
But would that only depend if the country that the person they played was signed up to it? Because is every weird and wonderful country, I mean, Tennis Europe, you can get people from all sorts of places. Is everybody got a World Tennis Number?
Yeah, so all those players will have a World Tennis Number by virtue of playing in Tennis Europe matches. Now, it may not have their national level matches included yet until that nation on board's there.
Right, okay.
From a Tennis Europe perspective, yes, their match results will be included.
So if the rest of their matches from that nation aren't on there, their World Tennis Number might not be representative of their quality of play at all if they've only ever played like 2 Tennis Europe matches.
Yeah, it might not be perfect at the moment, but this is where mass adoption is the next phase of the project, and it's only going to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
I have got a question on the list. I'll leave you guys to talk about the right time about UTR, because this all just makes me think we're just duplicating, but I'll leave you to do that when you want to. Thank you.
I think just jumping in very quickly.
Yeah, sure, Sam.
Around that point on mass adoption that Chris sort of touched on there, particularly across Great Britain, that's really where I feel like we'll have the most impact, particularly across sort of my section of World Tennis Number in terms of mass adoption from venues, from competition organisers, from leagues across the country. The key with the World Tennis Number for players having the most accurate number and for it to be really the most useful tool that it can be for everybody is to have as much data as possible. So we really paint an accurate picture of those players because we have every single match that they've taken part in. Now, obviously, that is going to be somewhat of a slow burner, perhaps. As we mentioned at the moment, only results that use the LTA systems count towards a player's World Tennis Number, but we're aware that it's likely they're probably playing in matches that aren't being recorded, and the question is, how do we make sure that we're getting as many of those match results as well? And that's really where my role comes in, to make sure that we've got all the best systems in place, the best sort of education and training for coaches, for clubs, for venues, volunteers, organisers, to make sure that every match that a player takes part in is recorded to their World Tennis Number. But obviously, unfortunately, I guess that can't happen overnight. So it will take some time, but you know, the vision really is that any match that a player plays in can and will be recorded towards their world tennis number.
So Sam, you're going for world domination by the sounds of it, which is fantastic.
At least country domination. You know, small steps. Great Britain first, and then I'll expand.
Amazing. That's so and of course people can report in their own results, can't they can actually submit results. So if you are feeling like your child's playing something where for whatever reason it's not counting towards their world tennis number, why not hop on the LTA portal and actually submit the result? Presumably everybody's aware that that's something they can do. Is that right, Sam?
I hope they're aware, definitely. But yes, no, absolutely, they're able to do that. I think sort of my only word of caution there is be confident that the result isn't already being recorded through the official means. If you're recording league matches, for example, definitely worth a question to the league organizer in the first instance to see if they're using the LTA systems and if the results are being fed into the LTA through another avenue. We do have really robust systems in place to remove and to highlight any duplicates, so it's not the end of the world if two of the same results do go through. But yeah, the self-submission of results is there. It can all be accessed through MyGame, so I'm sure everybody after this call will be going straight to their Advantage dashboard and looking in MyGame to find their world tennis number and their child's world tennis number. You'll find submit a result as a little button right there. You can follow the steps, add all your match details in, add your opponent in, add the result, and then submit that through.
Fantastic. Well, we better crack on because we did say we would keep it tight to 8 o'clock. But just one more question in this sort of more basic general stuff. And this is something that I think Belinda was coming on to as well. Can we ask, how is the ITF World Tennis Number currently used in the junior game? And really, is it fit for purpose for what it's being used for at the moment? For example, playing order in team matches. And then also the question about UTR being used as part of the national pathway for the RPDC selection process. And then just an extension to that question, what's the intention in the medium to longer term as well for this World Tennis Number for juniors? Will it become the basis on which we're accepted into tournaments and seeding and county selection and even funding? And you know, are we going to move into age and gender neutral match plays, for example? And why is it different, being used differently for adults than it is for juniors? So lots on the list there for you guys, but if you could answer some of those questions for us, that'd be great.
I'll let you start, Chris.
Do you want to kick off?
No, go on, please.
Okay, so how is it used in the junior game? Well, yes, adult and junior acceptance and seeding criteria for competitions are different. Why are they different? Well, ultimately, we still see our ranking as our performance measure, okay? The measure in which players can be accepted into competitions by. Whereas on the adult side, because they don't play as frequently, the World Tennis Number is more of an appropriate measure for competition. We do, so I suppose the differential there is we use it, the World Tennis Number is being used where play is not as frequent because the World Tennis Number stays static and updates more frequently than the ranking, which is more of a performance orientated measure, which is why we use that across our junior pathway of grade 1 to 4 competition. Is it fit for purpose? Well, I would say for the majority of times, it is fit for purpose. And I would say we've had a number, as I've alluded to already, a number of data issues. And that's the biggest problem with launching a system like the World Tennis Number, data. Okay, duplicate contacts. You know, if you're a player on the ITF circuit, you might play, you may have had a juniors IPIN, you may have your LTA account, and you may have played in Tennis Europe, and they may all be on different accounts, and it's making sure that all of that data is together in one place and making sure all of our match data is also flowing through the system. That's where we see the inaccurate World Tennis Numbers. So is it fit for purpose? I believe it's more fit for purpose than it ever has been. I believe that will only continue to improve. I think the one area where people who have had a point around is it fit for purpose is where an adult has stopped competing. So let's just say, take an example, you have a very good player who was playing on the ITF circuits but stopped playing and hasn't played since. Well, their world tennis number is still at that high level, but recording a few matches, that number will start to fall as they start to compete again. So it does have that ability to react really quickly. In terms of UTR, this was a little bit of a curveball that we were made aware of earlier on this week. The performance team needs something that is super accurate at the moment for the purpose of selection for RPDC funding at this present moment. And from a performance, in the performance space, the UTR, which is obviously a competitor rating to the World Tennis Number, is performing extremely well. You know, UTR get data from everywhere around the world, whether they have a feed with the nation or not. They get the data, but they're a commercial
organisation. How do they do that, Chris? How do they do that? That's interesting.
They use ways of accessing that data from websites. It's called scraping. It's not probably the most corporately responsible way of getting data, but it's not illegal at the same time. So they take the data from organizations' websites. But as I say, the UTR has been and is very accurate and includes data from around the world. So for that reason, the performance team have gone with that for the selection criteria for this year's competition, for this year's funding model. We are definitely hoping that that will, by next year, be World Tennis Number. So hopefully I've been able to explain that one as much as I'm able to explain it.
And you said to me, didn't you, that the UTR that was used, I mean, my experience of it is primarily through US collegiate tennis. And I understand that's no longer going to be used for that purpose. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a really big move that happened on, well, first couple of days of January this year. The ITA, which is the Intercollegiate Tennis Association, so effectively the governing body for college tennis, university tennis in America, announced that they were their agreement with UTR had ended, and they had adopted the ITF World Tennis Number as that core measure for college recruitment, which is fantastic from the World Tennis Numbers perspective. It's game changing, having that recognition there. It's already on college recruiting, which is where all these college coaches are looking at for every player around the world. And yeah, it's a really exciting time for the World Tennis Number.
Fantastic. Sam, were you going to jump in with something there?
I was just going to sort of, just add a little bit of context, I guess, around maybe why decisions were made as to go for the ITF World Tennis Number as opposed to UTR. As sort of Chris mentioned, UTR is very much a high performance measure. You know, at the LTA, we're really looking to open tennis up to more and more people. And when deciding on a new rating system, we wanted something that would support us to not only at the higher end of the game, but also to increase participation. And the ITF World Tennis Number is really a tool that's able to do both. I mean, in addition to that, the opportunity to not only partner with the ITF, but also with, you know, other Grand Slam nations and many other leading tennis nations around the world, we felt was kind of in the best interest of all players that are taking part in tennis and potentially will take part in tennis in the future. I think another thing from the chat just around kind of differences such as UTR taking a game level calculation as opposed to a set level calculation that we currently take with the ITF World Tennis Number. We did a lot of research when looking to adopt WTN around the difference between that set and game level calculation on essentially pressure on junior players, work closely with our performance team as well as the USTA and the French Federation and their performance teams on what that meant for junior players. And it was felt like a much more appropriate measure to set it at set level as opposed to game level. So hopefully that's just a couple of additional bits on kind of the key differences and why those decisions were made.
And in terms of the medium to longer term of the World Tennis Number, well, this is why Sam, it's fantastic to have Sam back on the project and for Sam to be really leading this engagement piece. We want everybody in the country that plays tennis to have a World Tennis Number, and we want it to become the talk of the clubhouse. Let's see how, from a World Tennis Number perspective, where that goes, and is there a need for 2 measures going forward? I don't think anyone's decided on that as of yet, but we are closely monitoring that. And look, we're wanting to get as many results in as possible from across the UK to make it as accurate as possible. And that's where Sam's role is going to come in. Sam, I don't know if you want to touch on anything there.
No, definitely, I think, the easiest comparison really is the golf handicap. Now, whether you play golf or not, if you're having a conversation with somebody and they say, oh, I've got a handicap of 4 or 5 or a handicap of 20, you roughly know sort of how good or not so good perhaps they are at golf. And that's really kind of the vision that I have for World Tennis Number, whether you're in tennis directly or not. Everybody knows what the World Tennis Number is. Everybody knows that, if you say I'm a 15, 20, 25 World Tennis Number, they roughly know what that means for your playing standard. And that's outside of tennis as much as inside of tennis. And one of the key areas that we're going to kind of grow that from is within venues. And that's one of the one of the places that I'm really going to focus on is how do we get venues really engaged and get World Tennis Number embedded across all tennis venues. And that'll slowly spread out across every single player. And hopefully we'll start collecting every single match result as well.
Brilliant. Okay, well, time's moving on, and I think we probably need to go to sort of a quick fire of some of these questions I've got here now. So if we could keep your answers as brief as possible, and just ask a few, and then we'll open to the floor. So how far back are the results counted towards World Tennis Number calculations?
From 2016 onwards on a depreciating scale. So a result that you submit at the weekend has less weighting on your World Tennis Number than the result you submitted back in 2016.
Or the other way around.
Is that?
Or the other way around. Exactly the other way around.
Okay.
I misspoke. The result that you submitted this weekend has more weighting than the result that you submitted in 2016.
Okay.
Nothing like a misspeak to add confusion to the whole situation. Eh?
No, I think we all understood what you meant by that, so no worries. So although we get that you don't share the algorithm in detail, but on a broad level, is it calculated on a sort of, well, basically the question is, if I lose a match 7-6, 7-6, have I done better than if I'd lost it 6-love, 6-love?
No, is the answer to that. We take it as we take it as 2 sets to 0 in the calculation. Yes, you're right. We don't publish the algorithm, just like UTR don't publish their algorithm. The math behind the algorithm is extremely complicated, and we would be providing you with lines of code which may mean nothing, because what you need to know is every match result to be able to calculate it. But we provide you with 8 simple principles of what the World Tennis Number means, and they're available on the LTA website on lta.org.uk/World Tennis Number, which explains those 8 principles very succinctly.
Okay, and so we're clear now that it's just the set that matters. Is there a different weighting? So let me see if I can express this properly. If I play somebody 4 years ago, and at that time of playing them, I beat them, and they then went on to win Junior Wimbledon, does my win against them in any way appreciate?
A small amount, I think, in that situation. So it does take your playing history into account as well as your opponent's playing history into account. So to a certain extent, yes, if your opponent that you've previously played has got significantly better, you would see an impact on yours, but it would be not a large impact, particularly if you played them back in 2016 in your example.
Okay. And what about if someone retires? What happens then in the middle of a match for the World Tennis Number?
Yeah, so we will only take completed sets. Okay, so that set that hasn't been completed doesn't get recorded, or doesn't get used in the algorithm.
So if I am losing, should I retire?
I mean, that's a good question. No, you shouldn't retire. Obviously, you should only retire with an injury. But the system also will look at the number of retirements that you've made at the same time. So yeah, let's not start thinking that the system's going to stop.
Yes. Okay. And is that something to do with the reliability? Because a lot of people asked about this reliability measure. Is there any way they can actually find out what the reliability measure is of the World Tennis Number rating?
I think when we say reliability, we mean confidence value.
Okay. Yeah. Is that another? That's how it's described. Is it? Is there a way of knowing what the confidence is? That value? Is there somewhere we can see that?
So once a player reaches 70% confidence value, they will get a verified tick. So they'll get their blue verified tick, which is just the greatest comparison is your little blue tick on Twitter, really. But you'll those of you that have seen it will see it on their widget. That represents that their number is over 70% confidence value. So that sort of says, that is an accurate World Tennis Number. Up until that point, they're not able to see what that confidence value is. Other than
and there's a really useful FAQ on how to get yourself verified on the Help Centre, which I'm sure we can send the link to.
Amazing, thank you for that. We've talked about self-submitted results already, and we've talked about the Tennis Europe, and I think we've covered the list that we had from everybody who signed up and from the Facebook group. So if anybody now wants to come off mute and ask any question that they'd like to ask, would you like to either raise your hand, or if you're confident to come off mute and start asking your question, please do.
I'll be quick, so we're running out of time. How long do the results stay live before they fall off?
So results stay live forever, but as
so that's the difference to the UTR.
They
just diminish.
They devalue over time.
Okay. And on the retiring example, if I lose the first set and then my opponent retires, is it still just going to look bad for me that I've got one set down?
You'll only have one set against you at that stage. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but it doesn't show that then they retired. It's not somehow discounted or anything.
The match result, the full match result gets stored in the system. It's just when the algorithm starts to look at it, it will only start to look at that one set that's completed.
So although you would get the ranking points and you've won the match, you lost the set.
Actually, it makes if I was to only ever play wanting my World Tennis Number to improve, that's not been a good match, really, even if I won it, because they retired.
Yeah, you'd have finished off 1-0 in the algorithm.
Yeah, okay.
It's also important though to say that is only a small part of the, for want of a better phrase, like the picture that the algorithm is painting of that player. So if you lost that one set to the retirement, that it's not sort of like the end of the world situation. The algorithm just takes that into account when looking at the overall aspect of the player, in the same way as, one particular amazing win or one particular loss that perhaps you weren't expecting, again, shouldn't be seen as something that is either amazing for my World Tennis Number or terrible. It just paints the overall picture of that player. And if sort of normal service resumes in future matches after that, you may not sort of see a great shifts in your world tennis number either way, dependent on one outlying result.
Yeah.
And
Juniors are doing a lot of retiring for some reason at the moment. And I've been thinking, why are so many people retiring as soon as they think they might lose and at a certain point? And I think there's a few people playing a bit of a game at the moment. And maybe it's more the UTR game because it's before they get to 4 games against them and all sorts to stop their opponent benefiting. So I was curious. We've never participated in this, but there's a pattern going on at the moment with the group of boys that I'm like, okay, there's obviously something going on here. Do we have any sense as to what the level of world tennis number would be that the colleges in the US are looking for, as if they're not looking at UTRs?
It's a good question. You'd need to speak to the US college coaches really for that one, but
okay,
it's exciting times for that one.
Thanks, Belinda. Claire's asked a question about the bedding in issues with the world tennis number. Is it really sensible for it to be used for team ordering at the moment? Because that is something that comes up quite a lot on the group, that people feel that everybody knows that the person who's playing at number 4 should be playing at number 1, and yet because the world tennis number says so, we have to use the playing order as set. Is that something that the LTA considered, that it's actually not really working in that area?
99% of the time we would say it's working. Remember, I think it's also important to remember that every different measure measures slightly differently. So whichever measure you look at, whether that's ranking, whether that's UTR, whether that's world tennis number, they all work slightly differently. Okay. And so they will grade people differently. But, you know, if there's a team captain that's not sure why one of their players is so low, then by all means get in touch with us, get that player to get in touch with us, and we'll be happy to look into it. Sometimes there may be an issue.
An obvious reason, yes, yeah. Claire, does that answer your question?
Yes, it was just really last year it became a big issue because kids had numbers that were wrong, and when we were at the county cup or at the league, people were enforcing it strictly, so it made a mockery of the competition that we're actually there to play. So you really need to know your numbers before you get there and try and sort out the order before you get there, because if you get there on the day, it was news to us that we were even to use it last year. This year we're on to it, so we can be ahead of the game.
Good stuff.
Okay, anybody else got any more questions? We're coming up to 8 o'clock, but we've got time for 1 more or 2 more if you have anything to say.
Are there any plans to move seeding to be in normal competitions to be done by, given we're using it for seeding in county cup and leagues?
Yeah, so we're using it in certain county cups and certain leagues. But as I say, for juniors, the majority of the time, we still consider the ranking to be that performance measure for now.
Seeding.
Yep. For acceptance and seeding.
But are you got this up your sleeve for next year or something? If you're thinking this could come in more and more?
Look, at this present moment in time, it's not for me to say that there is definitely going to be a change. But what I would say is we are watching. Okay, we're keeping an eye on how both measures are performing, and who knows what might happen in 3 to 5 years' time. Okay, but that's the kind of time frame we'd be looking at. Wouldn't it be great if we just had one single measure that we could use for acceptance and seeding? Do we think the world tennis number is quite there yet? No, we don't. But could it be in 3 to 5 years' time? And that's kind of.
But you think sooner than 3 to 5 years it might replace the UTR for the pathway people?
I would definitely hope so.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely hope so for our performance team.
Okay. Thank you.
Guys, thank you very much. Well, do put anything else in the chat if you'd like us to come back to you on it through the group. Do join the group if you haven't already done so. Do have a look at the tennis volunteer group as well if you want to get involved in volunteering in tennis, because we all know parents have amazing skills and can really help the tennis community. Don't always be a customer of tennis. Join as a member of the sport. And on behalf of all of us, I'd like to really thank Chris and Sam, not only for joining us tonight and giving up their time, but also for the fantastic work that they're obviously doing on this with the secret recipe to Kentucky Fried Chicken, as I like to think of the World Tennis Number algorithm as, and also with the world domination. We really do wish you guys good luck, and thank you very much for joining us tonight. And thank you to everybody who's joined in from the group. I hope you found it interesting. Please do join up for our next Q&A, which is going to be with Dave Samuel. Dave, if you don't know him, is Liam Brody's coach, and that is going to be held in March. Dave's also the founder of Mindset College and has written books and is an advisor on tennis mindset, and he's going to be talking about the myth surrounding talent, which is a very tantalizing title for a talk. So do come along, do join in, and do put your thoughts on the group, and do spread the word about the group as well to anybody you know in tennis. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you again, hopefully.
Thank you for organising, Kate. Thanks, Simon and Sam.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.